was about 20 years ago. I was at the county fair. Had a balloon in my hand, and I was just walking around. And my mom said, slow down. Because if you don't slow down, you're going to trip. Balloon's going to come out of your hand, it's going to go up in the air. As any young boy would do, I paused for a second, then I kept running. And I kept running, My mom said, boy, you need to slow down, because sooner or later you're going to trip and the balloon is going to go in the air. I paused and looked at my mom, and I kept running, and slowly but surely I tripped. Balloon came out of my hand, and it went in the air. And I was crying, because I was sad. So I went over to the stand where they were selling balloons, and I told the gentleman there, I said, I had an orange balloon, and I let it go, and it went in the air. So I need a different balloon. How about you sell me a red balloon? Because if I let that red balloon go, it won't go in the air. And he said, young man, I'll sell you the balloon, but if you let it go, it will go in the air too. I said, okay, well, give me a yellow balloon. Yellow's a pretty color. It's a pretty day outside. If I let the yellow balloon go, it will not go in the air. He said, young man, I'll give you the yellow balloon, but if you let it go, it too will go in the air. So this is when I got a little snotty. I said, okay, give me a black balloon. I said, I'm black. Right? If I let the black balloon go, the black balloon won't go in the air. And that's when the store clerk leaned over and he said, young man, it's not the color of the balloon that makes it rise. It's what you put inside. So I just stopped by this afternoon to simply tell you that it's not the color of your skin that will make you rise. It's not the amount of money in your bank account that will make you rise. It's not the fact that whether you live in an apartment or a house that will make you rise. Ladies and gentlemen, it's simply what's inside of you that will make you rise. Life is simple. We try to complicate things, so forgive me if you thought that I was going to come out here and give you the top 10 secrets to success. I don't declare to possess a much deeper understanding of the world than anyone else. But what I will tell you is, one, my story. And that story of moving from passion to action. Because you will come up against things in your life where you don't believe in yourself. But what's scarier than that is going through life interacting with people who don't believe in you. Everybody won't believe in you. I hate to sound harsh, but that's the reality. Everybody won't believe in you. So you all saw my 6-month-old come out, and she stays up late some nights. She doesn't go to sleep. So I've watched strange things on television. So now I watch the Discovery Channel. If I'm up with her, I watch the Discovery Channel. And what I found out is that, can anybody here tell me the most popular insect in the world? Spider. No. Ants. Watching the Discovery Channel, I found out that for every human being, there are 7,000 ants. For every one of us, there are 7,000 ants. So that got me to thinking, I said, David, if you could be an insect, what would you be? Now, some of you all may choose to be a butterfly or caterpillar. Some of you all may choose to be a roach. I hope nobody would choose to be a roach. Some may venture to be a mosquito, but me, I would choose the bumblebee. And the reason I would choose the bumblebee is because I draw a lot of inspiration from the bumblebee, realizing the fact that after scientists run all of their tests and researchers get done researching and analyzing a bumblebee, Elijah, what I found out is that everything points to the fact that the bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly. If you calculate the wingspan of the bumblebee times the weight of the bumblebee should be incapable of flying. But somebody forgot to tell the bumblebee. And so he flies, and she flies, and they fly around with his buzz, doing that which others think is impossible. In the 4th grade, I became a man. In the 4th grade, doing what was supposed to be a normal school day, my teacher walked up to me, tapped me on my shoulder, and said, David, you are an endangered species. True story. He said, David, the American dream doesn't have a face in it that looks like yours. And even at the tender age that you are now, you might as well drop out of school. True story. And that's where I learned the first lesson that I want to share with you all today. And that lesson is this. Position isn't power. Position is not power. Because here's the thing. In that scenario, the teacher had the position, but I had the power over my own life. Position isn't power. So I began to matriculate, and I saw this teacher again in the 12th grade. I was studying at a library. He walked in and he said, well, David McGhee, what are you doing here? I said, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm studying. He said, oh, I thought you'd been dropped out by now. And that's when I had to remind myself that lesson, that position isn't power. Many of us watch the NBA playoffs. If you watched the game last night, you'll see the Miami Heat played, and their coach is Eric Spoelstra. So Eric Spoelstra has the position, but LeBron James has the power. If you look back over history, there was a president by the name of Lyndon B. Johnson who held the highest seat of the land. Lyndon B. Johnson had the position, but it was somebody else named Martin Luther King Jr. that had the power. Position isn't power. And if you study the Bible, you'll come across that story where there's this big guy, his name is Goliath, and in all of the land he had the position, but it was a young man with an incredible name named David who had the power. So that's the first lesson. Position isn't power. So young people, I don't care what position you think you are in. I don't care if you don't think that you're smart enough, pretty enough, bright enough. Who you are right at this very moment, you have power over your life. So I began to matriculate, and I graduated from high school, and I attended Oakland University, actually right up the street. Go Grizzlies. And it was then that I was challenged spiritually, financially, economically, academically. When I went to college, both my parents were laid off. So I had to work at FedEx. I worked a job from 2 in the morning to 8 in the morning. And I had a 9:20 class, I believe. So while I'm getting ready to go to work, my friends are coming in from partying, but I didn't have that luxury. During my freshman year during finals, I lost my grandmother. No, my freshman year when school started. My freshman year during finals, I lost my best friend to the streets, street violence. And that's when I learned the second lesson that I want to share with you all. The first one was what? Position isn't. The second lesson is that decisions determine destiny. Decisions determine destiny. There's a Stanford study that shows that each and every day you make about 10,000 decisions. I know that sounds like a lot. But each and every day you make about 10,000 decisions, and 9,997 of those really don't matter. You might think they matter, but they really don't. Am I going to wear Nikes or am I going to wear the Reeboks? That really doesn't matter. For dinner, do I want to eat chicken or do I want to have a turkey? Do I want to text this person or do I want to tweet them? Do I want to put this on Facebook or should I put it on Instagram? We think all of those things matter, but they really don't. But each and every day, there are about 2 or 3 decisions that you can make that can change the course of your life. My best friend that I talked about losing 30 minutes prior to the streets taking his life, we were together. 30 minutes prior to that, he and I were together. I went home, he stayed out. He lost his life, I'm standing here talking to you. Good decision. Good decision. A little before that, I was hanging out with one of my buddies who was in the neighborhood, and he decided to sell drugs. This was the summer preparing for college. He sold drugs, I chose not to. He went to prison, I went to college. Good decision. Decisions determine your destiny. And that's something that you need to keep with you because, again, everybody won't believe in you. So there will be times where you feel like there is nowhere to turn but to yourself. Nowhere to turn but to yourself. My daughter, we were at Target. You hear her over there. We were at Target a little while ago, and I went and bought this little extra saucer, bouncy, jumpy thing to put her in. Spent a lot of money on it. And I got it, and I got home, and I put it all together, and I said, boom, I got it. It had bells and whistles and played music, and I put my daughter in it, and I cut it on, and it didn't work. I said, okay. I looked at the instructions, made sure I did everything right. I did everything right. So I took her out of it and put her back in it, thinking that that would change, right? So I took her out, I put her back in it, cut it on, and it still didn't work. And I went over to the box, and right there, smack dab in my face, there was a sign that said, batteries sold separately. So I started to think that no matter how much money I paid for that device, it really didn't matter how fast I put it together, it still would not work unless I got those batteries that were sold separately. So I can have a big fancy car, but unless I put gas in it, which is sold separately, that car isn't going anywhere. So this brings me to the last point of contention that I want to share with you all. The first one was position is power. The second one was decisions determine destiny. The last one is, and I hope you take this with you after all of the stuff that you're learning today, passion is free, but action is sold separately. Passion is free. But action is sold separately. It's free to have passion. It's free to dream. All you have to do is fall asleep. You can have one of those, but in order for you to go out here and change the world, you have to do that which is sold separately. You have to make sure that the world understands that. I often tell people that each of us are born pregnant. And that sounds strange. You were born pregnant, which means that you were born impregnated with something that only you can give birth to. And no matter how big or small you think it is, the world will forever be deprived of it. As I prepare to exit the stage, I want to encourage you all from this point on to develop the ability to play the whole movie. Play the whole movie. After my freshman year, I came back home. I loved to play basketball. I was at a park playing basketball, and I got done and I saw a guy on the bench reading the newspaper. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, sir, can you tell me what time it is? And he didn't respond. I said, sir, can you tell me what time it is? He never responded. So I snatched his newspaper. And I said, hey, man, I see you have a watch on. Will you please tell me what time it is? He snatched his newspaper back. He folded it. And he said, young man, I saw you when you walked up to me. And I heard you ask me what time it was, but I didn't want to answer you. I said, why not? He said, because you remind me a lot of myself. I said, that's real smart. I just want to know what time it is. He said, if I answered you, I'm afraid I'm going to strike up a conversation with you. And if I strike up a conversation with you, I'm going to start to like you. And if I start to like you, eventually I'm going to invite you over to my house to meet my wife. I said, I'm not trying to date your wife. I just want to know what time it is. Then he said, I'm never going to answer you. Because if I answer you, I'm going to strike up a conversation with you. If I strike up a conversation with you, I'm going to start to like you. If I start to like you, eventually I'm going to invite you over to my house to meet my wife. You're going to meet my wife. She's going to ask you to stay for dinner. You're going to stay for dinner, and then you're going to meet my daughter. And this is when it got interesting. And ladies and gentlemen, for the very last time, he said, I'm never going to tell you what time it is. Because if I answered you, I'm going to strike up a conversation with you. If I strike up a conversation with you, I'm going to start to like you. If I start to like you, eventually I'm going to invite you over to my house to meet my wife. You're going to meet my wife. She's going to ask you to stay for dinner. You're going to stay for dinner. You're going to meet my daughter. You're going to like my daughter because she's pretty. And she's going to like you because you remind me a lot of myself. And then you're going to ask my daughter out on a date. You all are going to go out on a date. And you're going to fall madly in love. And eventually you're going to ask my daughter to marry you. And I don't want my daughter marrying some fool who isn't responsible enough to wear a watch. So, what he did in that moment, how silly it may sound, he played the whole movie out in his mind. And that was his reality. So as I prepare to take my seat, ladies and gentlemen, in all that you do, play the whole movie. Once you play the whole movie, then, and only then, can you change the world. God bless you all.